Prepare to have your mind blown as we reveal 84 facts about Seto Kaiba's original Duelist Kingdom deck. Before Kaiba Corp's advanced duelist technology, before the Battle City tournament rules, there was Duelist Kingdom, where Seto Kaiba brought not just his Blue Eyes White Dragons, but an arsenal of legendary monsters and tactics. From Lejin, the mystical genie of the lamp, to the devastating crush card strategy, Kaiba's original deck holds secrets most modern duelists had never heard of. And today, we're breaking down 84 facts about the deck that defined his early dueling style and made Kaiba a legend of the game. Battleox's Japanese name, which is also used in the manga, is Minotarasu, which when translated is a reference to the monster in Greek mythology, the Minotaur. Additionally, this card's name may be a pun on the phrase battle axe. The Tablet of Lost Memories is an ancient Egyptian tablet built by priest Seto as a symbol of his friendship with the pharaoh. The Tablet of Lost Memories depicts a scene from the ancient past where we can see priest Seto facing off in a duel against the pharaoh, and if you look closely, you can see Battleox serving as one of priest Seto's monsters. During a flashback to the ancient past in episode 52 of the anime, you can also see priest Seto summoning Battleox from his stone tablet. During Joey and Kaiba's first duel in episode 16, Yugi warned Joey that this card is resistant to fire. However, in the card game, this card obviously possesses no such ability. Ironically, in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games, Battleox does have abilities that give it the edge over fire-based monsters. In Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Duel Stories, when this monster is summoned, it instantly discards all Pyro-type monsters from the opponent's hand, and in both Yu-Gi-Oh! The Sacred Cards and Yu-Gi-Oh! Rechef of Destruction, Battleox has an ability to destroy all Pyro monsters on the opponent's field. Kaiba's signature card is of course the Blue Eyes White Dragon, and a large portion of his deck focuses on how to quickly summon it. Kaiba is so fond of this card that he even has statues of it in front of buildings he owns, as well as numerous buildings and rides in Kaiba Land, USA. He even designed his own private jet to resemble this card. Now, is this obsession a little much, or is Kaiba an absolute gigachad for stuff like this? Anyway, the thing that stood out the most about this card when we first saw it, other than the fact there were only 4 copies of it in existence, was of course its huge 3,000 attack points. Blue Eyes White Dragon began the tradition of the main protagonist of each Yu-Gi-Oh! Series facing against a monster of 3,000 attack in their very first duel of the series, and winning the duel by defeating said monster. It also shares its 3,000 attack with the rivals of the other series, which are Chaz's Armed Dragon level 10, Jack's Red Dragon Archfiend, Kite's Galaxy Eyes Proton Dragon, Declan's DDD Doom King Armageddon, and Varys's Borreload Dragon. Did you know that Kaiba's 3 Blue Eyes each have their own name? Well, not in canon at least, but in the Nintendo GameCube game Yu-Gi-Oh! The False-Bound Kingdom, the 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons are named Azrael, Ibris, and Jabril. Azrael is the Angel of Death. Ibris is a mistranslation of Iblis, who is the devil, and Jabril is the equivalent to Gabriel, the Angel of Revelation. Like I mentioned, this is just from the GameCube game. Most of the video games, especially back then, had very little influence from Takahashi himself, so all of their content should be taken with a grain of salt, but nonetheless, I thought this was a really cool detail. Sticking with the theme of video games, let's look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. During April Fool's Day in 2017, the Blue Eyes White Dragon's animation was altered when it was summoned by Kaiba. The Blue Eyes is wearing a Kaiba construction helmet in this animation, which is similar to the sketch that appears when trying to log in during the game maintenance times. When Grappler was released in the OCG back in 2000's Booster 7 set, it was drawn differently from how it was previously depicted in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters series. Did you know that Grappler appears in the card artworks of Amazonas Substitution and Molting Escape? Grappler has a recolored counterpart in Drooling Lizard. Now, the recolored counterparts are a series of 100 monsters which are recolored versions of cards released before them. The official card database lists the counterparts in sequential order, and the video game Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 2 Dark Duel Stories was the first medium to contain all 100. As well as that, each monster was later included in 3D models in the video game Forbidden Memories, which came out later that year. Gyakutenu Megami's name when translated is Goddess of Reversal. Now, this is a very famous card as it is involved in one of the standout scene changes between the original series and the 4Kids dub. In the manga and original anime, Kaiba uses this specific card to jam his traitor's gun and take it. But why would Kaiba use this card in specific for this? Well, taking its translated name into account, it means that Kaiba made a reversal of the situation. And you're probably thinking, well, would Kaiba really use this card specifically because of its name to add salt to the wounds of his traitor grunt? Well, heck yes he would. It's the kind of extra asshole move Kaiba would play, and these details are why we love him so much. Checking out the differences between Konami's cards and the Bandai versions is always super fun. A quick FYI is that Bandai held the rights for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game for a short period before Konami obtained them. Anyway, the Bandai version of this card has 1,900 attack and 2,300 defense, whereas the Konami version has 1,800 attack and 2,000 defense. And I've got to say, the artwork for the Bandai version is stunning as well, right? I love that. Did you know that this was the only reprint in the 20th anniversary pack with no previous holographic release? The other 7 cards in the English version of the set were the Blue Eyes White Dragon, Red Eyes Black Dragon, Summoned Skull, Celtic Guardian, Buster Blader, Jinzo, and Shiba Warrior Taro, which all of course had previous holographic releases apart from Shiba Warrior Taro. The artworks for the cards in this set were all drawn by the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! Kazuki Takahashi himself, and Shiba Warrior Taro was based on his pet dog Taro, who was a Shiba Inu, which is a small breed of dog in Japan. If you're anything like me, then you've probably been pronouncing this card's name wrong for a long time. And that's all thanks to the English dub.
I attack with the mighty Hitatsumi Giant.
It wasn't until I started studying Japanese that I understood how it was pronounced and why. See, the name should be pronounced Hitatsume Giant, not Hitatsumi Giant. Hitatsu is a Japanese counter meaning one or a thing, and me is the Japanese word for eye. Put them together and you get one-eyed giant. Now, what's really interesting here is that the Japanese name of this card is actually Saikuropsu, which, when translated, is simply Cyclops. And just like Battleox, this monster was inspired by Greek mythology. In this card's case, it's, of course, based on the Cyclops. The English name for this card, Hitatsume Giant, comes from Hitatsume Kozo, a one-eyed yokai in Japanese mythology. Did you know that this was the first monster played by Kaiba, besides Season 0 of course? This card featured for the first time in Kaiba and Solomon Moto's duel in the original manga and first season anime. The Hitatsume Giant can be seen in the artwork of Costdown and the monster itself in the artwork of Narrow Pass. Did you know that the Judgeman bears a resemblance to Enma, who is the judge of the underworld in Japanese mythology? It's a strong guess to say that Judgeman is inspired by Enma in some way, but there is no concrete evidence from this beyond their resemblance. Judgeman has a female counterpart, Miss Judge. What I really like about Miss Judge is the card's name is an obvious pun. Miss Judge also sounds like the word misjudge, right? For those who have a keen eye, you'll have noticed that Judgeman's full body has been shown several times throughout the Yu-Gi-Oh! Medium, however, rarely has it been consistent. It had 2 tiny morning stars, a purple cloak dangling from its back, crimson armor covering its entire body, and extremely squat distorted dimensions when it was summoned by Seto Kaiba in the manga and the first episode. In Yu-Gi-Oh! The Duelist of the Roses, the armor turned purple, the cape was taken off, and the morning stars grew much larger than its entire head. In Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's World Championship 2010 Reverse of Arcadia, the armor's breastplate was indigo instead of purple, and the design was far more intricate than in Duelists of the Roses. Now, when it appeared as Johnson's Deckmaster, it had human-like proportions, the morning stars were not visible, it had a grey breastplate over a dark blue robe, and a purple cloak hanging over its shoulders. This design was also used in episode 167 and in the artwork of Half or Nothing. Le Jin's design is based on an Oriental Jinn, a mystical creature which fulfills you 3 wishes that we all know, of course, is a genie. Jinns come from Arabic mythology. They are intelligent spirits of lower rank than angels, spirits inhabiting the earth but unseen by humans, capable of assuming various forms and exercising extraordinary powers. This theory is proven not only in its name, but also with its support card, Ancient Lamp. Le Jin has 2 counterparts, Lord of the Lamp and Fire Jin, the blazing genie of the lamp. Now, Le Jin has 2 different artworks which feature him in different positions with alternate backgrounds as well as different jewelry. The second OCG and TCG artwork is taken from the panel showing this monster being summoned in chapter 42 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist manga titled Advance and Retreat. A lot of Kaiba's monsters are based on creatures from mythology, and the same goes for Mystic Horseman, who is based on the centaur from Greek mythology. Mystic Horseman isn't alone, however, as there are other monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! That are depicted as centaurs in their artwork. These monsters are Gladiator Beast Equest, Chiron the Mage, and Ixarion Universe. Just like Battleox, Mystic Horseman is another card that has followed Kaiba through the ages. In episode 52 of the anime, during the same flashback to the ancient past, a tablet version of this card was briefly seen on Priest Seto's side of the field during his battle with the Pharaoh. Mystic Horseman, along with Battleox, were both used as a sacrifice to summon the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Mystic Horseman's Arabic name, which I'm not going to try and pronounce, translates to Mysterious Knight. In the video game Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 2 Dark Duel Stories, Rude Kaiser's card artwork was based off its manga depiction. When it was released in the OCG in 1999, it was drawn with a completely different artwork, which is the one we are all familiar with today. Did you know that Rude Kaiser appears in the card artwork of Excess Lesser Linker? Right, let's look at some more name translations, well, because they're fun, right? Rude Kaiser's Greek name translates to Tough Kaiser. I like that, Tough Kaiser. Want to start a fight with that guy? Ryukushin Powered's name is pretty interesting. When broken down, Ryu is the Japanese word for dragon, and Kishin means fierce god. However, the Ryukushin name doesn't make much sense, as the monster is actually based on a gargoyle, and its Japanese name when translated is, well, gargoyle powered. Ryukushin Powered isn't alone, as it appears to have a little family going on in the franchise. We have Ryukushin Powered, of course, but there's also a weaker version simply called Ryukushin, and a clown version called Ryukushin Clown. Ryukushin Powered came out in the 1999 OCG EX starter box as a common card. We got it in the TCG in 2002 in that legendary starter deck Kaiba, and it came out later that year in Metal Raiders as a common. In terms of its rarity, it has never been printed in a higher rarity than common. The Japanese word sagi, which signifies fraud or scam, may have been the origin for Sagi's name, which would explain his demeanor and attitude. In the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime, Sagi the Dark Clown was drawn differently from the original manga artwork. When this card was released, it was drawn in a different position altogether. In fact, its artwork came from a panel in chapter 37 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga, where it was summoned for the first time. Did you know that Sagi the Dark Clown has an unmasked, illegal OCG version called Masahiro the Dark Clown? It also has a retrained counterpart called Petin the Dark Clown, which shares the same naming scheme, type, attribute, level. Their similarity continues, as in the anime, Kaiba also uses both of these cards to activate Crush Card Virus's card effect. Now, we all know that the D in Lord of D's name stands for dragon.
A D! It stands for dragon!
But did you know that it stands for something different in the video game Yu-Gi-Oh! The False-Bound Kingdom? In that game, this monster's name is the Lord of Darkness. Lord of D appears in the card artworks of Grief Tablet and the Melody of Awakening Dragon. Lord of D has a female counterpart in the Lady of D. They both share the same defense, attribute, type, and level. Lady of D protects dragons from battle, while the Lord of D protects them from targeting effects. But the biggest similarity the two share is, of course, that both of these monsters are joked about due to the sexual implications of their TCG names. Did you know that Swordstalker was an effect monster in the anime, with a pretty gnarly effect at that? You could add a quarter of the attack of one monster in your graveyard to this card's attack. Swordstalker can be seen in the card artworks of Convert Contacts and Speed Spell Power Baton. Swordstalker's Japanese name is pretty badass. Its Japanese name is Fukushu no Soda Sutoka, which translates to Swordstalker of Revenge. Now, I can see why they shortened it, but the of revenge part sounds so awesome, especially when you think about its anime effect as well. Did you know that Trapmaster's effect is identical to the effects of both Crimson Ninja and Reaper of the Cards? Another weird coincidence linking these three together is that all three cards have odd valued levels. Crimson Ninja's being 1, Trapmaster's 3, and Reaper of the Cards being 5. In the video game Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters and Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters 2 Dark Duel Stories, Trapmaster was drawn with a different artwork, where it looks like it's wearing a mask. And I don't know about you, but I think it looks really creepy. It scares me, man. Trapmaster's Arabic name literally translates to Master of Traps, which, for some reason, every time I hear this, I can't stop thinking about Metallica's Master of Puppets. The Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon has the highest attack, defense, and level of any non-effect monster in the game. Now, I never paid attention to this, but the maths behind its stats are pretty cool as well, and I guess obvious for those who paid attention, but for any of you like me who didn't, check this out. So, the attack, defense, and level of the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon are all equal to half of those of the 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons added up, though the defense is rounded up to the nearest 100. Kaiba made summoning the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon look easy. 3 Blue Eyes, polymerization, no problem. But did you know that in a couple of the video games, namely Forbidden Memories and The Duelist of the Roses, you needed the spell card Ultimate Dragon to ritual summon this awesome dragon? Do you remember the Blue Eyes Shining Dragon from the Pyramid of Light movie and how you needed to tribute the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon specifically to special summon it? Well, do you also remember how we had to wait a year to be able to try this insane feat ourselves? When the Blue Eyes Shining Dragon, which was first released in the TCG in August 2004's Mega Pack, the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon did not exist yet. It would take until the fall of 2005 for this card to be made available, which was as a Shonen Jump promotional card. This, of course, made Blue Eyes Shining Dragon unsummonable, unless you played the OCG, as the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon was printed way back as early as 1999 and 2000. Rabid Horseman's Japanese name, Minokentarasu, is exactly what you'd expect of a fusion monster's name. It combines the Japanese name of Mystic Horseman, Sentarasu, and Minotarasu, the Japanese name of Battle Ox. Now, we've already talked about how the two monsters used as this card's fusion materials are based on the Minotaur and Centaur of Greek mythology, but the cool thing is that this detail is actually pointed out by Kaiba himself during Chapter 27 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist manga when he first summoned the Rabid Horseman against Joey. Did you know that the Rabid Horseman was the first ever Beast Warrior fusion monster? In the Yu-Gi-Oh! Video game The Duelist of the Roses, when Rabid Horseman appears as a 3D monster, it can be seen wearing the exact same red armor as Battle Ox instead of wearing the purple colored armor from its card artwork. Misprints are always fun. Though slight, this one will upset the OCDers and those that like balance. So, all copies of D-Spell from 2004's starter deck Kaiba Evolution have the word spell not capitalized like the first part of its name. D-Spell came out in the OCG in 1999's Volume 2 set. Its TCG release came in 2002's nostalgic starter deck Yugi and starter deck Kaiba as a common card. D-Spell would later be included in 2003 starter decks Joey and Pegasus, again as a common, before its release in starter deck Kaiba Evolution in 2004. Its final release to date was in 2019's Speed Duel Arena of Lost Souls, again as a common, and it's a shame because a holo of this card would have been so awesome. D-Spell's Japanese name is Maho Jokyo, which when translated reads as magic removal. Mystical Elf appears in the card artwork of Gift of the Mystical Elf. Now, the really interesting detail about this artwork is that this was the first card that shows the Mystical Elf with her eyes open. Other cards that feature the Mystical Elf with her eyes open are Bubbly Elf and Mystical Elf Solemn Mop. Gift of the Mystical Elf's card effect lets you gain 300 life points for each monster on the field. Now that the extra deck zone has been added, the most amount of life points that can be obtained with this card is 3,600. The highest number that could be reached prior to this edition was 3,000. Gift of the Mystical Elf has a damaging counterpart called Just Desserts, who dishes out 500 damage to your opponent for each monster they control. When Mesmeric Control was released in the OCG and TCG, it was completely redrawn compared to its anime artwork. And I've got to say, the glow up for this one was appreciated, as the anime one is pretty dull, right? Did you know that in the video game Yu-Gi-Oh! The Duelist of the Roses, Mesmeric Control was a trap card? Time for another Japanese lesson. Mesmeric Control's Japanese name is Simon Jutsu, which when translated means hypnotism. Monster Reborn is one of the oldest and most popular cards in the game. Its international artwork was changed for religious censorship, but the design was so popular that the international artwork of this card has been referenced in the design of several other cards with similar effects. Those cards are Monster Reincarnation, Xyz Reborn, Pendulum Reborn, Symbol of Heritage, and Monster Reborn Reborn. Now, did you know that Monster Reborn has not one, but two separate trap cards made specifically to counter it? Those two cards are Call of the Grave and Call of Darkness. Call of the Grave says no to Monster Reborn, and Call of Darkness says back you go to the monster brought back by Monster Reborn's effect. Quiz time! Do you know how many times Monster Reborn was used during Duelist Kingdom? I'll give you a couple of seconds. The answer is 9 times. Yugi used it 6 times, Kaiba twice, and Mai used it once. Did you know that part of Negate Attack's artwork makes up part of the artwork of the card Ground Collapse? Negate Attack underwent a couple of changes between its anime debut in 2000 and its OCG and TCG release a couple of years later. First of all was that it changed from a spell card to a trap card, and secondly was that this card's art was completely redrawn from its anime counterpart. Negate Attack's original colours were a dull purple and grey that were changed to a very vibrant red and blue. Following on from our last fact, in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, Negate Attack was depicted as a trap card. However, in the Japanese closing song Borderline Battle, Negate Attack is shown as a spell card. Did you know that, aside from the Toei anime, Negative Energy Generator was the first spell card ever used in any Yu-Gi-Oh! Series? It was of course used in the first episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! By Kaiba against Yugi. During his first duel with Yugi, Dark Energy was the actual card that Kaiba used in the manga. However, Dark Energy had already been released in the OCG with a different effect by the time that this episode premiered. So, Negative Energy Generator was made to take its place. This card was mistakenly given the same artwork as Negative Energy during the initial broadcast of Yu-Gi-Oh's first episode's dub. They of course later fixed this problem with the retransmissions. If we look at Polarization's artwork, one of the monsters in the card's artwork has been revealed to be Synchro Fusionist. Have you ever found Polarization to be a bit of a mouthful? Well, luckily I've got another Japanese lesson for you. Polarization's Japanese name is Yugo, which translates simply as fusion. Another quiz time for you. Polymerization has been used throughout the series to fuse into some of the series' most iconic monsters, and a lot of them were in Duelist Kingdom. Sticking with the Duelist Kingdom theme here, this time can you take a guess how many times it was used during this legendary arc? The answer is 10 times in Duelist Kingdom. Yugi uses it 5 times, Kaiba twice, and then once each for Para, Joey, and Pegasus. In the anime and some of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games, Shadow Spell is a spell card instead of a trap card that it became in the OCG and TCG. The artwork and effect of Fiendish Chain is very similar to that of Shadow Spells. Now, this is interesting because it links two characters together in an interesting way. Kaiba uses Shadow Spell in the anime, while Fiendish Chain is used by Jack Atlas, who is viewed as Kaiba's Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D counterpart. Additionally interesting is that during a flashback in the second episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, Jack Atlas also uses Shadow Spell against Yusei Fudo. Shadow Spell's Japanese name is Yami no Jubaku, which very interestingly translates to Curse of Darkness, which is also the name of an already existing card. The Flute of Summoning Dragon can be seen being held by King Dragon in its card artwork. Additionally, Queen Dragon Jin holds a lyre with a similar shape to this flute. It does make me wonder if there are any more dragon instruments out there like these two. The Flute of Summoning Dragon has a counterpart named the Melody of Awakening Dragon. As well as that, the Flute of Summoning Kuribo is a Kuri support version of this card. Did you know there's an actual type of Japanese flute called ryuteki, which literally means dragon flute? Ryuteki is a Japanese transverse fugue constructed of bamboo. It is used in gagaku, a Shinto classical music genre linked with Japan's imperial court. Now, the sound of the ryuteki is thought to depict the dragons who ascend the skies between the heavenly lights and the inhabitants of Earth. The Ancient Lamps association with the monster stated in its effect, La Jinn, the mystical genie of the lamp, is based on popular culture which associates jinns or genies with oil lamps, particularly through a few stories in 1001 Nights, aka Aladdin. This card's artwork changed when it became a monster card in the anime, as it had previously been a trap card. It was released as a monster card in the OCG and TCG, so the monster artwork was retained. Sticking with the theme of artwork, Ancient Lamp's artwork is taken from Chapter 42 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist manga titled Advance and Retreat, from the panel showing this lamp manifesting itself after the card was activated. Did you know that the kanji on the virus in this card's artwork means death? Crush Card Virus has 4 counterparts. They are Deck Devastation Virus, Eradicator Epidemic Virus, Full Force Virus, and Grinning Grave Virus. Now, what's really interesting about these virus cards is that they ascend in alphabetical order. Crush Card starts as the first of the 5 viruses at C, and then the following cards continue in this pattern, covering D, E, F, and of course G. Did you know that Crush Card Virus is one of 2 Shonen Jump Championship Series prize cards to be banned? The other card being Cyberstein. Both of these cards were also printed in limited quantities, Crush Card having only 6 copies in existence, while Cyberstein only had 18. On top of that, Crush Card is currently also the only prize card to be reprinted as an Ultimate Rare, which was in 2010's Duelist Pack Kaiba set. Defense Paralysis has a counterpart, Block Attack. As well as that, it also has a retrained anime-only version called Negate Defense. When Defense Paralysis was released, it had a name change to Stop Defense. On top of that, it was also changed to a spell card and was drawn with different artwork compared to its original Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga artwork. Final Japanese lesson for you. Defense Paralysis, or Stop Defense's Japanese name, is Shubi Hyun, which when translated reads as Defense Ceiling. Kaiba's Duelist Kingdom deck is jam-packed full of nostalgia and iconic cards that will forever cement him as a legend and Yugi's greatest rival throughout the series. But there was another duelist who really wanted to beat Kaiba with a deck of his own full of nostalgic and iconic cards. You can check that deck out here, where I dive into 142 facts about Joey Wheeler's Duelist Kingdom deck. I'll see you over there. Till then, take care. Peace, peace.